welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. It's been 10 seasons of empowering you and hand-holding you, the small business owner, in your growth journey. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. Tonight, we're bringing you our new series that we're calling the Leaders of Tomorrow Hangout, where we're literally hanging out with the young people of today, asking them what is top of mind. Tonight, in what India's youth is thinking about, we are here at the IIJNM campus in Bangalore, talking to students about gender. What are the conversations around gender that they're having? What really is the perception when it comes to gender equality? What is happening on the ground as far as gender equality, gender disparity is concerned, and all of that in conversation with students of this college as well as 3 experts. Let me introduce them. First up, Kanchan Kaur, Dean IIJNM, Bangalore. Dr. Piyush Roy, Professor and Founding Dean, School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, RV University, Bangalore. Rida Tharanaa, content creator, anchor and model. She also does a popular series on women's empowerment. Kanchan, Piyush, Rida, thank you very much, and thank you to all the students who are with us here at IIJNM here in Bangalore, talking about a lot of issues which are top of mind, and one of them I understand, of course, and it's an evolving discussion, it's an evolving conversation, is that of gender representation, gender equality, and just gender in itself and what it means to India's young people. So I'm very excited personally to be hearing from each of you in today's audience, and from the 3 of you who are, 2 of you who from the world of academics, have of course had long stints in the field of journalism. Rida, you are someone who speaks about women's empowerment when it comes to the digital medium and really using the power of social media when it comes to that. We'll discuss all of that. We will be taking questions live from our students here in this format that we call the Leaders of Tomorrow Hangout. Before we go any further though, I'm just very curious to understand, as someone who has about 40 years of experience under your belt, and you wear many hats, I'm curious to understand, does this conversation around gender come up very often, especially since you're speaking with people who are so young and are going to be in the next year going out there and helping people form opinions as journalists?
Sure. It actually does very often. This whole business about gender comes up very often, and we raise it very often.
Okay.
It's important that we raise this question of gender because, especially in the media, the one thing that you will notice is that there are a lot of women who join the media, and just like we discussed this a few minutes ago, not very many stay on. And there are reasons for it, and we can talk about them in a while, but generally this question of how many women participate in the workforce, how many women participate in the media, and how does the media shape women's, or how does the media shape gender, shall we say, sensibilities, also comes up constantly. And I think that's a question that, like you said, is evolving and needs to be addressed very clearly, very clearly and very prominently.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Piyush, you as well have worn multiple hats, first as a journalist and now, teaching young students. And you're very still closely associated with the representation of what's happening in media, especially as far as gender is concerned. You have a book, we are going to come to that in a moment, where you've written some poems about gender and gender representation. But before that, when you're interacting with young people, what are some of the conversations you're having?
Yeah, and as you rightly said, I teach film, and film is hugely consumed. And one of the first discussions which I definitely noticed over the years while talking to students are people now looking at the gender representation. Earlier maybe, and perhaps that has to do with the sensitization that is happening, the term itself coming into the discourse. And so people notice, okay, why the heroine is having a lot smaller screen time, or why they're not doing the drama is not moving from their perspective, is it a feminist narrative and that kind of a thing. And I think there are various phases in cinema that we look at. Surprisingly, if you look at the early cinema, especially early Indian cinema, we had far more fairer representation. Like if you go back to say 1930s time travel and look at the hoardings, the big three were like Devika Rani, Fearless Nadia. The first superstar action hero in Indian cinema was actually a lady who was like lifting men, throwing them off the trains and all that. But something changed with the coming of the angry young man phase and the romance taking a back seat, action coming to the fore, and action looks at often the trigger for an action or a revenge act is some female character in the family, in the hero's family being abused, those kind of things. And some of women started taking a backseat, and I think that's the period of imbalance happened. Like 80s, as we rightly say, was kind of that. But now I think the balance is coming back. The whole range of new actors coming in, new voices coming in, and we specifically addressing these issues with very progressive films like Thappad and all those. There are many more to come to that. Yeah.
So Rida, you're someone who's very active on social media, especially with the content that you do around women's empowerment, and you're speaking to perhaps a subsection of people that not a lot of people are focusing on, especially with this kind of informational almost kind of content. Why is that?
So mostly my content is my experience. I come from a remote area, and I think
where are you from?
I'm from Kaur. It's a very tiny village. So I was like the first from my place and everyone to be able to go to a convent school, get an education, and then slowly move out from there to Bangalore and get a degree. But it's not really the same for all the women out there. They married at the age of 18, and that's what you've been taught as well, and that's what I've been taught as well. So for me to step out of it, out of that bubble, which still kind of is a thing for my mom to know, I did not teach this to my daughter, why is she so different from all of this? That's what pushed me to know that why is this not happening to the male members of my family and only happening to me? And if I am not being vocal about this, or if I'm not creating a path, all of this was not just going to affect me, but my sisters as well. So all the things that I speak up on my social media are usually the experiences that I have faced. And every time I post a content, let that be regarding discrimination, let that be regarding women not getting the fair education opportunities, or let that be regarding just wanting to speak your heart out or choosing your path in your life. One of the things I realized is if I am not speaking up now, or if I'm not being vocal about it, women of my age also, and younger women, will just feel like, okay, this is just a common thing and everybody is going through it regardless. And one of the things I commonly feel every time I upload a content piece is, please do not relate to this. This is my experience and I hope you're not going through the same. And the amount of comments relating to it is crazy. And every time there's one person coming up like, which era are you living in? I'm like, okay, you know what? You need to go check the comments under it to know that these are the women who are really going through the same even in this century. So it is an issue that we need to speak up about, and it's the young women who will be changing this course.
Okay. Anyone here who has perhaps either studied or is interested in doing something around media and gender equality, gender studies? Anyone has done anything around that area? Okay, and but I'm sure that you cover it like you were mentioning in your course.
We talk about it. So the way we look at it is we're not. We might not have a course on gender equality, but in every story that they do, there is a question that has been asked, that is asked of them as, have you got everyone that you needed, and can you get a woman in where you, if you look at the number of sources in most stories, most of them are men. Why can you not get a woman where you can actually get a man? And that is a question that comes up. So we do this later in the course where we do there's a gender media survey that is done across the world, and we ask them to do a small portion of it, and they look at their own stories and they examine how many women they've got in their stories. And the results are usually quite shocking to them. So I think that's the way, that's the best way to bring home this whole business of we're not consciously thinking of bringing women into the picture.
And in fact, if you look at any published surveys, and there are numerous ones of them that show that women's representation when it comes to, like you were saying, media and journalism pieces, it's still in very low single digits right now. So there isn't much of a very positive representation, and there isn't much representation to begin with. I could go on talking about this. This is a subject that I'm passionate about, clearly the three of you are as well. But I think we should really open up the floor and start getting questions from the students who are here. Who has the first question? Maybe you can just put up your hand. I'll have a mic passed around to you and you can ask your question. There's some questions here. Yeah, go ahead. Can I have the mic? Can you tell us your name?
Right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rakshanda, and I'm a student at IIJNM. So my question is to ma'am, that India ranked 135th out of 146 countries in the Gender Disparity Index of 2022, and still we boast about women competing with men in different sections of the society, which is still true. So, but where do you think we can improve the most as a nation?
See, that's the whole point. Remember when we talk about women, right? We have women supporting women, and we talk about it on a very large scale. It's women supporting women. You see soap operas, we see movies. We always have that one woman who's putting another woman down, because that's how we put up. And even when we are raised, it's basically that, we have to think that way. But that's not put out to men directly. To be frank, I feel like it is going to change, because our generation specifically, we are in early 20s, we are in early 19s. I remember meeting a 16-year-old girl and she goes, I was saying no. I do not think I was able to say no at the age of 16. We were more vocal. We are able to say, I do not like this. Why are you speaking to me like this? Holding people accountable, asking them, why am I not there? And this is the change that we are having right now, and this is the flow. But the question is also why, right? The reason is we get our education, but we're not pushed into wanting to achieve more. Your education label is mostly to get a nice man. It's not your fault. It's not that, oh, you're getting an education because you want a rich man. No. But that's been instilled in you. That's been taught to you. And you feel that's your title. My thing is for that. And I keep talking about financial independence. Most of us are financially independent, or we might be financially independent. But the issue here is financial literacy. How many of us are taught about financial literacy? Investments. How do you want to work on the money? What will you do about it? Where do you look forward to? How do you want to split accordingly? We are never taught about that. So we are financially independent, but how financially independent are you? Can you really make decisions for yourself? Do you have the freedom of doing all of this? These are the issues we need to tackle on. Because I feel like women these days are vocal. We are coming in, we want to be there, we want to be financially independent. But how financially independent are you? Because the men are still making more money than you. The men still will be in the power and say, this is what I want. But here we'll just be like, you know what, I'm earning enough, I can take care of myself, and this is all. We're not asked to wanting more. When we take more, you're called greedy. You're called rude.
And my question is, how is that going to change? And this is open to all three of you, but we're talking about the gender index, and how's that going to change?
So basically, I think we need to start with education. If you look at the number of girls who drop out, now this conversation that we are having is in a very privileged space. But if you look at the number of girls who drop out of school, it's not funny. And we are I think in India, I think we have a dropout rate of more than 18 to 20% in schools at the upper primary and secondary level, but this is a dropout of the girls who've actually gone to school. So how many girls are actually going to school in the first place? How many are dropping out of there? And why are they dropping out? You don't have the space for them to actually be there. We don't have basic facilities like clean toilets, a way to get to work, get to school, and a safe way to get home. And it's the same thing as life progresses. Even when they go out of school into colleges, you need to provide them that space where they are free to focus on their education and not worry about being harassed by somebody down the road. So that is the kind of space we need to make as a society. And I think that is where the change needs to come in. There's a need for a change, like she said, in the mindset as well of women. But more importantly, I think since it's a patriarchal society, it's as much the responsibility of men to ensure that women get that space.
I'm going to take a quick break on that note. We're back in just a moment. Welcome back with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. Tonight, this Leaders of Tomorrow Hangout edition coming to you from Bangalore. Just by a show of hands, either, you could be male or female. Have you been harassed, anyone here, because of your gender? Just by a show of hands? Okay, so that I would say is a majority of the people that we are seeing here. Largely then seems to be the women who are being harassed because of their gender. Sorry, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I raised because I was a victim of stalking when I was studying at Edinburgh. So it is not about,
women or
men or women, I mean harassment and even gender for that matter. And just to take back on that, taking further on both this education, see, like we are, I represent a School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and one of the fundamental things that we're doing when students are coming to us from +2 into the undergraduate is this sensitivity to various discourses. What literature are they reading? What characters are they looking at? This thing is somewhere missing. The texts that we use, subtly we have to create that dialogue. And then we want that dialogue to again go to a point of empathy rather than confrontation. And here I have a poem on this that I would like to read out.
Yeah.
And this is...
So you are also an author. That's one of the hats that you wear. Can you tell us the name of the book?
So it's called All Heats Dusted.
Okay.
It looks at the present times and as the cover, so that many things talked about. But this poem is, it's titled If Only for a day a woman became a man, she would know men are not from Mars, just as she never was from Venus. Fathers cry, boys get abused, brothers sacrifice, men are forsaken. If I was a soul, my body a changing cover, then why gender my address? His today, hers tomorrow.
Very nice. Yeah, and it does talk about how you should look at the other side as well.
This is what we're trying to work out, bringing this discourse into the gender studies, the Eastern philosophical way of looking at, just not the body, what is beyond the body.
Sure.
I mean, somewhere I feel gender studies also makes us just look at a person first as a body, not what the person is. So perhaps that could be, I mean, what we need much more empathy, both sides. The sensitizing of men as we see it's required, but other side also, maybe that's a debate to be taken.
I would like to disagree on that. But at the beginning, remember when you said that it's not gender-based, right? When they raised the hands, you just saw the numbers, and you can do the research and you'll still see the numbers. Yes, I'm not saying that we should not look up at, we definitely should. The patriarchy is not hard on just women, it's also hard on men. It teaches them, don't cry, don't do that, and that's what we need to change. And if you see, empathy again is something that women are more towards men, and that's what we've been asking from men as well, to be empathetic towards us when it comes to understanding the whole concept of it. But I feel the whole concept of us coming to a point of understanding each other is to open up about it. But you do understand that the privilege that men hold is way greater than what women hold, and exactly why we need to speak about gender equality on a wider perspective.
Okay,
and yes,
that's
I
an
mean,
interesting
what
perspective.
also thing is, also we have to like open up that space, like bring in LGBTQ as well, other genders.
That's the thing. I remember my sister and I were discussing about this last night, going through the questions. When it was LGBTQ, we hire straight people to act on LGBTQ. How exactly are you representing the community? And how exactly are you giving them the platform to show what they are talented and what they are showcasing? And the worst part of all is the entire cinema has shown them as bad people. Right, and they need to change the entire narrative together to make sure
either
that we are
bad
not
or hilarious, or people to get laughed at.
Or we're going to kill you. Like, no matter how much people go on to say, cinema is just a fiction. You just need to enjoy it. But there are small minds who take it from that, changing their perspective accordingly and thinking women are like this. This is how I expect my wife to be. This is how I would want to be as a man. And that is why cinema together needs to be very important. We don't need more Kabir Singhs.
Of course.
But I also think,
but I think the dialogue is necessary.
Yeah.
We need to create more spaces for that dialogue, and I think, sorry ma'am.
No, Ken. So, no, I also think that what the other mistake that we're making is we are clumping all women together. Right? You're just saying, you're not looking at what the problems, let's say, of a Dalit girl is, whereas what is it that somebody who's grown up in Bangalore and has gone to a good school, what are the I'm not saying that she's in, you know, but she's definitely in a better, in a more privileged position than this girl who just got thrown out of school a few days ago. You know, recently there was this Dalit girl who got thrown out of school, and why do you want to go to school? Right? So I think we need to look at intersectionality. When you're talking about LGBTQ, you also need to, within women as well, you need to look at who's more privileged than the others and what we can do to enable and empower the ones who need that.
Completely out of time in tonight's episode. If you want to know which college we're headed to next, or if you have a suggestion of a college or a city or a theme that we should be addressing here on Leaders of Tomorrow Hangout, do let us know. Our contact details are on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching.